Hey, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is the Black woman's plight. Either you watched the interview Oprah did with Meghan Markle and Harry, or you saw it somewhere on social media. Either way, you saw clips, you saw headlines, you read it in tabloids, you saw something about this interview. And so today, I am going to share with you a conversation that I had with two of my girls, just chatting it up about not just the interview, but how it affects us as Black women. How does race play a role in our mental health? Um, how can we support one another? And how do we move forward? Take a listen to part one of this discussion. Welcome, ladies. Um, I am so excited for this conversation. It is a hot topic here
Yes.
in the US and also in the UK. Media is eating it up, and I'm so excited to talk about it. So, tonight we're going to talk about the Black woman's plight. And this is surrounded around the interview with Meghan Markle and her husband Harry and Oprah. And so first before we get into it, I want to go ahead and have you guys introduce yourself. So I'm going to start with Q.
Hello, thank you for having me, Amelia. And hey, y'all. So, my name is Queen, and I'm the content creator with Wisdom for Well Beings. And it's the go to for grown women who are seeking wisdom to apply to their spiritual, emotional, and mental well being journey. We know that there's a lot of information out here for us to gather, and we have therapists and we have doctors that give us knowledge and information, but there are some things that they can't tell you. There are some things that only are gained through experience, lived experience, and things that you can glean from other people's lived experiences too. So on my platform, I have ideas that I share, as well as women like yourselves, wise, well women who come on and share about their lived experience and the wisdom that they gain from it. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you all, hearing your wisdom, as well as sharing my insights too.
Awesome. All right, Malene.
Hey everyone. I love the fact that your focus is on wisdom because truly that is something that is so close to my heart and really close to the business that I serve. I really teach women how to become fierce leaders. I feel like the time is now for us as women to share the wisdom and to lead with wisdom. And I believe through my agency, Ordinary to Exceptional, I teach women how to transform their ordinary lives and make it exceptional through self mastery. And
Love
so
it.
I'm really focusing on the mindset, focusing on emotional intelligence, emotional management, as well as how to communicate our ideas. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, ladies, for joining. Okay, so I'm going to give just a brief overview of this interview. We've all seen the clips, we've seen the interview, and we're going to get into it's not going to be circled around the entire interview. Like I said before, we want to kind of just touch on um, some nuggets from the interview and then share our perspective on that and really bring it back to us as Black women as a whole in our community as well. Because this isn't just, I think a lot of people, from what I've heard before, was that people were just thinking that it was just, why does Meghan have to bring, why does race matter in this situation? Well, it does matter in this situation. She is a biracial woman, and it matters. So, in the interview, as only Oprah can do, she asked the tough questions to Meghan, and it started off with her first. She asked questions about her experience um, in the UK, in England, and for leading up from her engagement to her marriage, and then leaving the palace. The Megxit is what they called it. Um, them leaving the palace. She shared her experience dealing with well, she didn't say depression, but it was depression. She was dealing with depression, and she had suicidal ideations as well that she shared with her husband. There was a lot of comparing in the media between her and Kate Middleton, and they were having these headlines that had them bashing each other or made it seem as though they were in conflict with one another, but it turns out that they weren't really in conflict with one another. And also conflict with her not having security, and the family was not going to provide security to her husband any longer, to her and neither her child. um, Little Archie was not going to carry the title of being a prince, which is a birthright, because his father is Harry, who is also a prince. They asked a question was asked about um, why, um, what will it look like? What would the aesthetic look like with Archie? Like his color, as far as will he be dark skin, or what will he look like, basically, what it will look like. And so it's a lot. It is a lot. If I missed anything, Malene, if I missed anything, let me know. But that's just the basis of it. We're seeing, like I said, we're seeing it all over social media. So I really want to ask the question: why does this interview ring a bell with so many of us Black women, and why does it seem to be triggering? Why is it triggering?
Well, I think one of the reasons this is so triggering is because we can all relate to that rejection, that feeling of abandonment, that feeling of being lonely
Yes.
in a crowded room. There's this song from the 90s that I used to love by this artist named Sandra St. Victor. And those were the lyrics: lonely in a crowded room. And she talked about just this feeling of you're here and there are people with you and people around you, but you feel so alone. So we know what that's like
Mm-hmm.
because we've had to be the burden bearers, in our families. And a lot of us have been the strong friend in our crew. And a lot of us have had to be the strong one in the family when things were breaking down and when you yourself were hurting. And so we know what it's like to feel just heavy laden. And
Mhm.
I think that we could feel her heart because even though we may not have, those similar experiences that she had, I mean, how many people do we know that are princesses? You know what I mean? Or are getting married into a royal family or anything like that,
Right.
or that may have access to that level of wealth. Um, it's not so much about the situation, it's that when she talked and expressed herself, we know what that pain is like.
Right.
And we know what it's like to still have to be on and still have to show up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, at least that's for me, was one of the things that made this just so triggering,
Yeah.
and was something that a lot of us carried, days after and are still working through even now.
Truth.
I think also too, it's so relatable. You know, in her environment was the palace, but our environment can be the workplace, or maybe in a family setting. But the environment changes, but the issue remains the same. And I think that's the key. It's so relatable. It doesn't matter if you're in a wealthy environment or even in a poor environment, it doesn't matter. The issue remains the same. And that place of abandonment, that place of, not being protected in a place where you're supposed to be protected, and why is that? Because of the color of my skin. It doesn't matter what environment it is the same issue that we're facing over and over again. So the key is there's so many expectations, especially for Black women. there was this expectation of you have your S on your chest, you can handle anything. And that's a fallacy. That's a lie, because we can break just as anyone else. And so something that you said, Amelia, that I really kind of want to echo right here is how the media, sows discord among women,
Hmm.
and it's like we're supposed to support each other, but yet there are so many different voices keeping us separate and keeping us, to have that suspicion for one another. And I think that's a diabolical assignment that keeps us separated when we need each other, because of the fact that the same loneliness, the same rejection, the same abandonment that you're feeling, I'm feeling it too.
And to your point about them pitting one against the other, we don't know if Kate herself has experienced some of these things or all of these things.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, both of these young ladies are American women. Both of them are outside of what maybe the royals would have planned for
Correct.
their prince, just like Harry's mother was outside of that too. Now, this is just um, another level
Yeah.
because she is Black. But at the end of the day, it's like, we may not ever hear what Kate's pain is, but we're not here to talk about her.
Right.
Why didn't Kate stand up and advocate and say, no, it's not really like that. I consider her as a sister. It was a stressful time or something. Like she could have said something. And since Kate is the media's darling over there, that thing, if she had come to her rescue then and at other times too, some of this stuff wouldn't have gotten like this, I think. But
Right.
she may also have had her hands tied and not had the courage to, go against the firm. That's just something else to consider.
Absolutely. For me, what I found was mostly triggering is because I am a darker complected Black woman, and my entire life,
Mhm.
um, that has played a very big factor in how I saw myself, especially as a little girl. More so, a little girl. That's what I'm going to say. As a little girl, that played a very big role in my life because my mother was very light skinned, and I was always looked at a little bit differently when we would go out to the stores and things like that. So I had, so, as we know, back in slavery, colorism
Mhm.
was something that played a big role in how the slave masters used it as a tactic to separate the slaves. So you would have the house slaves who were more lighter complected, and then you had the field slaves who were more darker complected. And so that has led in our, unfortunately, I don't know why, but it has led into our culture across the board, and it feeds at us. Not just, it's not now it's not white people telling us, it's now us telling each other what beauty looks like. Now in today's culture, I feel like today it's getting a little bit better, because we are more in solidarity. We're seeing what
Mhm.
the tactics that were being used in the past and how we're trying to change that and celebrate one another, celebrate our melanin, for what it is. But that was really triggering for me. And I can only imagine how many other women that was a trigger for, to say, how dark is he going to be? What's the problem? Why is it a problem that he will have some melanin to his complexion? It's okay when it
Yeah.
comes to the triggers. And I think we were talking to about it prior to the recording. And I saw it on your post, Q, about stepping back from everything. And I enjoyed that. I was very happy when I saw it. And I was like, wow, you know what? That is so true. For our own sanity, for our mental health, sometimes we have to step back from what we're seeing on television. It was a great interview, but at the same time, because it triggers so much, we have to take care of ourselves while we support a sister. We can support in some ways, but we have to also take care of what's happening on the inside of us.
Mhm. I think also it's important that we I think we it's important that we separate the emotion, you know, from the incident.
Yeah.
And here is why. Because we can get so stuck in the emotion that it becomes like this cesspool. And we just, oh man, just it festers and then there is no solution. I think we live in a generation now where we have an opportunity to separate the emotion and deal with the issue so that we can move forward together. And for me personally, I make it a personal conviction to always reach out to my dark skinned sisters because as okay, let's deal with the whole colorism thing. I have a responsibility to embrace my sisters, period. And to let them know that we're not going to allow that which they've experienced, it's not going to be within our friendship. And I think that's something more of us need to do in order for us to heal the disconnect within our sisterhood. We must embrace each other, dark or light. It doesn't matter what shade it is, but be
Absolutely.
intentional in embracing each other so that we can heal. Because at the end of the day, hurt people. That's it, you
Hmm.
know? And more of us are going to remain hurt until we make a decision to heal each other through our actions, through our thoughts, through our communication.
Absolutely.
I think that it is remarkable, Amelia, that you thought about what you were thinking about in that interview.
Hmm.
And you were very present to the fact that this is making me think about what it was like growing up as a brown skinned girl with a light skinned mother. And
Hmm.
I think that we have to do things like that when we're consuming this media, because a lot of times people leave an interview like that and we're just mad. And then the focus is all on Meghan's story. They did this and they did that, and this is, they said this about, her unborn child. Like, these are the types of things that I'm hearing, and it's just all about everything as it relates to that story and that family. And then, we've got Tyler Perry and then his
Right.
part, and all that, and like all of these things that, he really is a hero, and this is not the first time
Mhm.
um has done things like that. But I'm just bringing up that to say there's all these different parts of the story, and you can lose yourself, like you were
Yeah.
saying, Eileen, in the story. But at the end of the day, we do have to consider, what is this bringing up for me? And then don't stop there. What do I need to then bring up with my therapist, if that is how you're helping to unravel your thoughts? Or maybe I just need to get out and take a walk and talk some stuff out. Who do I
Mhm.
need to talk to? Who do I need to forgive? What do I need to let go of? What am I holding on to that I didn't even realize was still there until
Right.
I saw this and this came up? And if we don't do those things, they just stay there, and then there'll be another story, because there always is. Yes, we um, should have empathy, and we can pray for these people, very specific prayers, those of us who are believers.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do as relates to you, to yourself,
Mhm.
you know? And then there's a lot of beauty in this story too that we
Yeah.
shouldn't miss. Like the fact that, as I said, with Tyler Perry, like that's what wealth is for. To me, when I think about what
Yes.
will it mean to be wealthy, and we're talking about somebody who was homeless at one point,
Hmm.
you know? So here he is now giving these people a home, giving these people security detail,
Yes.
like to be able to help provide for somebody in a tough situation. Like, I think that's a lesson to also not be missed. The idea around the type of husband and friend that Harry
Yeah.
has been to Meghan,
Great.
because it's idiotic to me that men like Russell Wilson are clowned in the media for the way that they love their women.
Right.
They are literally protecting them. There are women who are in situations that would have had to suck that up, because that's my mama, that's my family,
Mm.
that's just how it is. We don't have to live with them. We just have to deal with it while we're there. But no, it's like, I'm getting my family out of here. So
Right.
I don't want us to miss the beauty in the story too, and I don't want us
Absolutely.
to stay stuck in all of the bad stuff and not deal with our own stuff. Because this whole plight, that we're here to talk about, a lot of it is just stuff that we're still carrying and
Yes.
has not.
And that's why I think it's so important that, and I love the fact that you redirected us into the beauty of it, because it's so important for us to extract the wisdom out of the situation and extract the wisdom from from each story. Because if we get the wisdom out, then we can learn from it and grow from it. And so, um, seeing what Tyler Perry did and how he stepped in, seeing how Harry, what he had to deal with, a major shock with his family. I mean, you growing up in this environment and then realizing that what is supposed to protect you and provide and keep you has completely disappointed you. So for him, not just dealing with the shock of that, but also stepping up and caring for his wife and his child was phenomenal. And then Megan, even her, not just surviving, but now beginning to thrive out of it. All of that is important. And all of that is wisdom that we as individuals must glean from. But we also have a social responsibility to focus on the beauty. And I
Absolutely.
think that's where the media is not, they're not doing
No, of course not. They're
They're
not going to
not.
do that. My background is in journalism, and one of
that.
the first lessons I
That's
remember.
why you're such a great interviewer.
Oh, one of the first lessons that I remember as a freshman is that the media sets the thought agenda. That's
Yeah.
what they tell you. And so, what that means is we are going to tell you what to think and what to think about it. Now, there are people who are not going to go beyond that. Yeah, there are going to be people like what we're doing right now. We're going to break it down, dissect it. That's just what
Uh-huh.
we do. But for the most part, the media sets the thought agenda. So if they're going to create this particular image of Meghan, that is what those people are going to think, especially if that's what they choose to think.
Hmm.
And if you challenge them that it could be different, then they're going to implode. Look at what Piers Morgan has done to his career because of this interview. And you know how messy and low down and unscrupulous this man has been for decades.
Yes.
He could have chosen a lot of things to take him out. But when he was challenged on how he has been dragging Meghan, how he has contributed to the machine, the
Yes.
very machine that he talked about, when he was called out on that, he could not handle that. And he literally, have you all got,
Yes.
Yeah, I
he,
did.
he literally walked off of his job,
Yep.
walked off the set,
Hmm.
stormed off like a little baby.
Like a little
I
baby.
call it a little something else, but
But
that's
you,
what he
that,
did over Meghan, over Meghan
Yes.
Markle,
but
over.
you see, but I'm so glad you mentioned that, because here they can dish it, but they can't eat it.
Yeah.
They can dish it out, but they can't eat it. And so it's almost like you expect us to take it, but once you get fed the same spoon, you can't even handle it.
No, they wouldn't be able to.
Hmm.
And it's so interesting. The whole idea around the fact that Harry didn't know what he was dealing with, his people, because he never really had to know. Like that's all
Right.
you've known is privilege and wealth. But then, and I don't know her life like this, but we don't know if Meghan has had to be met face to face with racism
Exactly.
before, because light skin privilege is a thing.
Hmm.
It's a thing.
Absolutely. I was just having this conversation with Malene actually, and I said, actually prior to this, I didn't know Meghan Markle. I didn't know who she was. I didn't watch Suits. I know.
Me either.
I didn't see Suits. But so happened I was watching Hallmark during the Christmas season and I saw her in a movie that I had already seen before. And I said, "Oh, that's Meg." I was like, "Oh my gosh, there she goes." But she can play she could play a white woman very easily. When she straightens out her hair and stuff like that, she can fit in just as easy. So you're right, Q, because she may not have had to experience
That
certain
level, that
that
magnitude,
level of yeah, that level of uh, what am I trying to say? I don't want to say it's not scrutiny,
oppression.
but yeah, she didn't have to
Yeah.
experience the things that maybe you and I, the
Mhm.
three of us,
She's
may have
probably
experienced
experienced some degree of
some
racism,
degree. Right,
but she probably has never been hindered by it. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So
right,
like that's different. Someone acting funny with you, she probably has experienced some microaggressions or even some racism, but nothing necessarily hindering. But unless she shared that and I didn't get
No.
it, because I feel like that would have been definitely appropriate for her to say, well, I experienced,
right,
this, that, or the other. Because I've been in situations before where I was experiencing racism, but it was nothing that was hindering. And then we've been in situations where we have been hindered,
right.
you know?
Absolutely. Wow, that was a lot. Hope you enjoyed part one of this amazing discussion. Stay tuned next week for part two. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. Follow me on Instagram at Millennial and Menopause. Check out my website, millennialandmenopause.com. You can get some downloads, check out my blog, and my new ebook, Advocating for Your Reproductive Health. Until next time, ladies, be blessed, bold, and beautiful.